So, Monster Hunter Wilds has launched to pretty mixed reception, and while there is some merit to what a lot of people are saying, there's also a lot of meaningless hate being thrown around. So how about we take a moment to really dig through this title and have a look at if Monster Hunter Wilds is worth your time. For anyone who doesn't know, Monster Hunter's gameplay is pretty intense, affording you a collection of weapons to choose from before pushing you off into the world and either surviving the fight between these massive and unique monsters or getting your ass handed to you on a silver platter. And, as any good sequel in a franchise attempts to do, Wilds tries its hand at expanding upon this formula. While you still have the usual hub town that you have to return to between missions, Wilds throws out the forward and back between every hunt, and now allows you to go to do whatever you want, when you want, finally getting rid of one of my main annoyances in the franchise in general. And, while the timer still exists during hunts to keep the fight from never ending, the open world exploration is exactly that. Open, see Night Rain? That's how you're supposed to do it. Not only that, but Wilds has also given you a new companion to tag along in your one-person and cat army, and that's the Sacred. While they do act as a regular mount for a majority of the game, your Sacred, named Peppers in my case, does have some unique utility in both combat and exploration. Sacred are able to hold a backup weapon for you, meaning that if you're fighting something with armor, you can use a hammer to smash their defenses to bits before changing over to something with a little more damage to finish them off. While not necessary for beating the game, I also found it quite useful for keeping weapons with different elements or status effects in case what I was using just wasn't really hitting the mark properly. Your Sacred also comes with a handy little bag that the handler can place items she finds to restock you instead of needing to return to the hub area every time you need more potions. Last but not least, Sacred are the easiest way to mount a monster, allowing you to jump from your trusty companion's back onto the monsters, where you can then hit them until you're either thrown off, or you can create a wound to bring it down, so you can wail on the creature just that little bit more. And that's another new thing with Wilds. Upon damaging the same part of a monster repeatedly, you might notice that a scar is beginning to form on the monster's body, at which point it has the chance of opening up. Using the focus mode, you can use a focused thrust, hitting your newly created weak point and dealing massive amounts of damage, and usually stopping them from doing things like following through with a massive attack they've been winding up, or even running away, which they absolutely love to do in this installment. The combat is incredibly fun in this new title, and while it might take a moment to get used to the new controls, even the most well-versed will be challenged by some of the creatures that you have to face. From the usual returning monsters like Rathalos to some of the new monsters like the Doshagama. Understanding and learning these creatures' movements will go a long way to making you a much more efficient hunter, but sadly, not everything about the gameplay is as flawless as I would like. First off, the Sacred I spoke about earlier isn't having the best introduction to the series. For instance, when you're knocked down, you can call your Sacred to pick you up from the ground and save you from a possibly fatal hit, far quicker than you would normally be able to get up, but due to the nature of the Sacred's AI, it doesn't seem to understand the situation a majority of the time, sometimes ending up with your trusty companion carrying you right back into a monster's attack. The player character also seems to be suffering from severe lack of response and awareness. While overall the character's responsiveness seems to be a bit better, I have noticed moments where the player character seems more interested in automatically putting their weapon away or returning to a default state instead of listening to anything I'm trying to do. This sometimes is the same with using items. Items also seem to have a few issues. Much like in the other Monster Hunter games, if you use an item that doesn't want to respond, there seems to be little to no feedback, often making me confused as to why I was still affected by the same debuffs that I just tried to cleanse. While progression feels a lot easier in this title as compared to Monster Hunter World or any of the others, the constant back and forth between the tent and menus can be quite frustrating. While yes, after crafting gear or armor there is a prompt to equip those immediately, but if you make a mistake or misclick, you're then forced to get out of the shop, run over to the tent, and then make your changes. While I understand that it doesn't work as well for the roleplay part of the game, I feel the menus would be far simpler and easier to navigate if they were just condensed all together? With the shop, for example, why does the view/sell decorations option in Gemma's shop not allow you to also equip said decorations? Why are things confined to buttons listed across the bottom of the screen and not just listed in the submenu? And last but not least, why is it so hard to find the things I'm looking for in the game settings menu? Monster Hunter Wilds has been taking quite a different approach to their progression in general, but the most noticeable would probably be the story that the game focuses on. While I won't get too deep into the actual happenings of the story, I will touch on a few pieces of interest. From my experience, the story is a pretty good way to introduce the player to locations present in the game, from the desert to the underground. The new locations have kept me pretty invested, just as invested as I have been with the new monster reveals. But the story has some pretty frustrating moments. Most of the first half focuses on a young character named Natar, and while I understand he's supposed to be a stand-in as an emotional example of what these monsters are capable of, I was stuck hating him nearly every step of the way. From his self-righteous approach to literally every situation, to the main character syndrome he suffers from every step of the way. I mean, this kid stood on a cliff and tried to throw a rock at Arkfeld. Hey kid, I get that you're traumatized and you're going through some things, but if that rock hits, you don't fight that. I do. How about you drop the rock, step away? Honestly, I don't even understand why this party of people think it's acceptable to bring a literal child to a place where two f***ing dragons are fighting. Outside of that, I felt like the situation with Arkveld is more than enough to keep the interest of the player, and, like a lot of monster stories, it's the human side that really drags it down. I don't understand why the human characters keep continuously walking into traps or situations that put them in immediate danger, and I mean, like, come on guys. You couldn't come up with something better than Wyveria and Wyvern milk? What, did you get your 8-year-old son to write this part of the story? Overall, this game has been pretty solid, and while there have been some issues running the game for some people, it seems a lot more like people are attempting to push their PC's limits while not understanding what they're doing. The number one fix I've had for all of my issues so far is turning my shadows down to medium or low. And yes, the game is running fine even with frame gen off. While there's also been a lot of complaints about low resolution textures, for one, people claiming that this looks like a PS3 game really don't seem to remember just how far graphical fidelity has come in all of these years. And secondly, there is a free addition to the game that allows you to have higher resolution textures in the game, but it does take up an extra 70 gigabytes of space. And that's what people aren't talking about for some reason. Without the added resolution of textures, this game is just as functional as any other release recently, while being only 60 gigabytes. And in a world where most of the games are close to 100, if not more, that is huge, and my storage thanks you, Capcom. While this title might not be up to other people's standards somehow, that's the price you pay for a smaller game size while keeping the exceptional functionality that this game has at its core. To be completely honest, outside of people's frustration with literally not being able to run the game, the majority of complaints surrounding this title are completely unfounded. Like I said with Armored Core 6, you need to start seriously thinking about what you say to and about developers before everything starts to end up being the same repeated slop every release, like Call of Duty and Assassin's Creed. But saying that, as with any review, this is my opinion and what I think about the game. While I don't expect this to transition specifically to your brain, it is at least my understanding of everything. And from my understanding, this game is incredible, and me and my friends have been having a great time with it. But that doesn't speak for you. And if you've been having a terrible time, I'd be more than happy to have a conversation with you in the comments below. So, as always, thank you all so much for watching. Keep an eye out for more of these in the future, and I'll catch you in the next one. I can finally sit down and not have to deal with this 35 degrees. Jesus Christ.